Right. So I have seen few questions. I will be explaining about at the end of the session. Since we are having a short time of span, so I have to finish this momentum theory. I will explain that at the end of the session. Okay. Right. So momentum theory. So let's get into this momentum theory for hovering. Okay. So you have to understand that we have momentum theory for climb, we have momentum theory for forward flight, right? As well as momentum theory for even for turbine, wind turbine blades, we are having a different type of rotor systems. Okay. So here we are going to see about momentum theory for hovering. Okay. So the book I have used to take references Basic Helicopter Aerodynamics by John Seddon, and it is from Billy Publications. So I'm just using those images for educational purposes. So before entering into the momentum theory, a few things we have to remember from our last class. So that is airfoil, right? So the airfoil cross section, we are having card line. So card line is straight line which is connecting our leading edge and trailing edge. Okay. So in the last class also I have told what is the relative wind. Anyone remember that? What is relative wind? So I will explain once again. Suppose if our airfoil is moving in this direction, the exact opposite direction we will be taking it as relative wind. Okay. So since our entire rotor system is rotating, right? So the same will be applicable. They have given as a name of rotational relative wind. Okay. So another one factor I have told, induced flow. I hope you remember that. If from a top view, right? From top view of helicopter, if we are seeing, right? So our rotor system will be like a circular pattern. Just imagine from the top view. Okay. So what will happen if I am drawing the side view here? Side view of the rotor alone. Okay. So it will be a straight line. Okay. So top view, it will be a circular, and if you are seeing from the left view or right view, side views, so it will be a straight line. Okay. So what will happen to the flow if we are want to hover or if we want to climb, right? So when what will happen to this flow pattern, it will be the air will be getting sucked from the upper surface and it will be blown to the downward surface, right? So the main, so that we can produce the thrust force upward. Okay, so we can produce the thrust force upward. So the flow which is induced on the rotor, right? So due to the rotational speed of the rotor, right? So the flow will be induced. Okay, I hope you understand the word called induced. So from the top view, from the top surface to lower surface, the flow will be getting induced along the rotor, right? So that's why it is named as induced flow. Okay, so that's why the direction is also given downwards. Okay, so rotational relative wind flow is coming in this direction and our induced flow is coming in this direction. Can you able to understand that? Our rotational relative wind will be the airfoil direction will be here, so our relative wind will be in the opposite direction, right? So our induced flow will be downward direction. Okay, so that's why there will be a resultant resultant relative wind will be generated since two flows are there, right? So a resultant relative wind will be generated. That's what it is given in the green color. Can you able to see? Right. So once again, I will explain everything. See, my stylus is having problem. I don't know what was that. So that's why it is automatically marking over in the screen. So I will try to rectify that as soon as possible. Right. So the relative wind, right? So it is nothing but when the airfoil is there, right? So airfoil is there, and if it is moving in this direction, right? So the opposite. I'm sorry that my stylus is having some problem. I don't know what was it. One second, I will try to change the stylus. Pen में ना पतना नहीं. Right. So let me try with this stylus. So our airfoil is here, right? So relative wind will be here. Sorry, airfoil direction will be here. So you just airfoil rotation direction. Okay. So our opposite to the airfoil direction, we will be considering that as relative wind. I'm just marking it as RW. Sometimes they will be calling it as rotational relative wind. Okay, as mentioned in this image. Okay, so that means the opposite is the airfoil direction. Okay, the flight path of airfoil. Okay, so opposite to that, the relative wind will be there. So it is taken with respect to the center of pressure of the blade. Okay, CP of the blade. So you should understand, you have to know that along with which center of pressure we are taking. Okay, CP of blade we are taking. So chord line is there, right? So the angle between the chord line and rotational relative wind is given with respect to angle of incidence. So what is the angle of incidence? What is the purpose of angle of incidence? In our aircraft flight mechanics also, I have told you, we are having a airfoil, right? So chord will be there, right? And our fuselage reference line will be there, FRL, right? So between the chord and fuselage reference line, we will be marking it as, once again, we will be marking that as incidence angle. Okay, IW. We will be marking it as incidence angle for wing. Okay, so if it is for tail section, then we will be marking it as IT. Okay, incidence angle of tail. The similar manner, right? So what is the purpose of making angle of incidence? So that we can provide maximum lift even if we are using the symmetrical airfoil. At angle of attack 0 also we can provide the lift, okay, by making the angle of incidence. So these are all basics, that's why I am not getting again in. So the angle between the chord and rotational relative wind is named as angle of incidence. Okay, so I hope you clear with the first image. Let's go into the second image once again. So we are having rotational relative wind, right? And we are having inflow, induced flow. Sometimes they will be calling it as inflow, or they will be calling it as induced flow. Okay. So due to the rotational speed of the blades, right? So there will be a flow will be induced along the rotor blade, right? So what will happen? There will be a, so this is the image it is given. So rotational wind. So we are having a induced flow. So there will be a rotational resultant relative wind. Okay. So the angle between the chord and the resultant relative wind is given as angle of attack. Okay. So in aircraft, we are just said that if we are taking angle of attack, right? So airfoil is there, chord and flow will be given with respect to angle of attack, right? Alpha. But in case of helicopter rotor blades, right? So we have just included one another term, because in aircraft the wing is only going to provide the lift force. There is no rotational, there is no rotor blades available. Okay. But in case of helicopters, the blade itself, it is rotating and it is generating the lift force. Okay. So that's why the term induced flow is playing the major role. So the resultant between the induced flow and rotational relative wind, it is given as the resultant relative wind. So the angle between the resultant relative wind and the current, it is given with respect to angle of attack and flow. Okay, so I hope you understood that rotational and relative wind. So now let's get into that forward flight. So this is an example of forward flight, but we are going to see about moment theory for hovering only. So in order to understand the basic, right? So which we have left in the last session, last lecture. So I have included this in the slide. Okay. So if you see here, angle of attack is mentioned here, and in less induced flow and rotational relative wind. Okay. So our resultant relative wind is marked over here. So when angle of attack is larger, same problem again. When angle of attack is larger, right? So what will happen? The induced flow will be getting reduced. So from this image we can identify when angle of attack is larger, our induced flow will be reduced. In the same manner, when angle of attack is smaller, our induced flows will be greater. Okay, so this is just for basic understanding. So when we are going into blade momentum theory and blade element theory for hovering and blade element theory for forward flight, we will be studying more about this difference, why the angle of attack is like that and why the induced flow is like that. So for momentum theory, especially for hovering conditions, we are not that much required to know about this induced flow and angle of attack right now. Okay, so we will be seeing about that in our blade element theory. Okay, so hold your questions up to that. We will be seeing that blade element theory in the next class itself. Okay, right. So this is an a helicopter which is showing with the coning. So what is coning? So the regular blade shape will be like this, right? So coning will be like a small V shape. Okay, so coning of helicopter, which will be going to help for during the climb as well as during descent. Descent has to be opposite during forward flight. So this coning will be very much helpful. So why it is helpful? Just read this once. A helicopter in the forward flight or hovering with a headwind or crosswind has more molecules of entering the aft position of the rotor blade. So when we are moving forward, right? When we are moving forward or when we are hovering, right? In especially in the headwind or crosswind, I hope you know that what is headwind and crosswind, has more molecules of air entering aft portion of the rotor blade. So what is that mean by aft portion of the rotor blade? Suppose if I am drawing a cross section, okay, so I am drawing a cross section along the helicopter blade, right? So this is our front portion and this is our aft portion. Okay, so when we are moving forward, suppose the helicopter is moving forward, so the flow when it is getting impacted, so it is going to the air molecules is going to enter more in the aft section. Okay, because the difference, pressure difference, so it is going to enter in the aft part of the blade than the front part of the blade. Okay, so even in hovering, the same will be applicable. So therefore, the angle of attack is less and the induced flow is greater at the rear of the rotor disc. Okay, so you have to understand that. So the section is divided into B as well as A. Okay, so if you see the image over here, B and A, right? So you can understand the difference. So when we are having more air molecules entering into the aft section, that is A. So what will happen? The flow will be higherly induced in the section. Okay, so that's why our induced flow is higher in that, and our angle of attack is less. Okay, whereas in the forward position, that is in the section B, the induced flow, the flow is very much less. So I will clear once. So the flow is very much less, right, in the B section. So I'm marking like this as I am taking the reference axis. Okay, so B section, air molecules are less, so our angle of attack will be higher where the flow is induced less. Okay, so Next slide. Right. So now we are entering into the main concept of the today's topic. So since we are having 15 minutes, I will be explaining. This is the easiest concept only because everyone knows about momentum theory, right? So how the momentum theory is going to help us to calculate the thrust force. So that's what we are going to see in this particular lecture. Okay. So we need to calculate the thrust required for the hovering condition. Okay. So thrust required during hovering. Okay. So that is our main agenda. So if we know the thrust required, then we can tilt the blade accordingly and we can produce that thrust so that pilot can lift the vehicle. Okay. So the same theory will be named as actuator disc theory. Okay. The simplest method that describes lifting rotor. Yes, that is that either in hovering condition, the lift and thrust will be acting at the same direction. Okay. So it is based on achieving the lifting force generated by the change of momentum. Yes. So there is a linear change of momentum. When we are speaking about force, there is a linear change of momentum is there, right? So we will be studying about how the momentum is changing and how the thrust can be calculated using the actuator disc theory. Okay. So for that condition, we need to do some assumptions. So what are the assumptions we are going to do is considering the flow as one of the stream tube condition. Okay. So this in this image they have mentioned stream tube. So if you see the image also, right? So the image also you can see that the flow will be along the stream tube manner. Okay. So the A section. So the A section is the where the rotor is there. So this is our rotor. Okay, the location of rotor along this. Okay. So yeah, once again I want to ask sorry for this scribbling. It is automatically the stylus is doing. Okay, so I am not able to control that. I don't know what was the problem with the stylus. I will try to change that as soon as possible. So this is our tail rotor. Okay. So correspondingly, it is mentioned as A. A represents the area of the rotor disc. Okay. So A2 is the exit area. So this is our inlet. So this is our inlet, flow inlet, and this is our outlet. Okay. So the flow is going to get induced in the rotor blade. So that's why the velocity at the rotor is given with VI. Okay, VI is I is representing the flow, induced flow. Okay, so V2 is our exit velocity. So we will be considering that velocity will be zero when it is entering, when it is starting. So the velocity will be zero, then it will be induced at particular velocity VI, and if the exist at the exit, it will be V2. Okay, so this type of analysis, flow analysis, we might have done it Venturi tube also, right? So it will be also called as stream tube conditions. Okay, so which is actually symmetric surface passing through the rotor disc perimeter, which isolates the flow through the rotor. The flow will be through the rotor, not only around the rotor, it will be through the rotor. Okay, so if we see that if I am drawing a straight line, right, along the center axis, so it will be symmetrical about both the sides. So I'm not able to draw the straight line. So if you see the central line, this center line, right? So this center line, it is acting as a symmetrical. So the flow will be considered as symmetrical in the left and right side. Okay. So that's why they have mentioned axially symmetrical surface passing through the rotor disc perimeter. Okay. Right. So the air is assumed to be incompressible, right? So there won't be any density changes there, correct? So incompressible flow, right? And the flow past any cross section of the stream tube is constant. So we know that the mass flow rate around any section, any system, right, from inlet to outlet, it will be constant. That's what the consideration of momentum is stating. Okay. So theoretically, we will be stating that mass flow rate in the section 1 and mass flow rate in the section 2 will be equal to each other. So that's why the section 1 along with A, that is our mass flow rate m dot 1. So it is given rho A into VI, mass flow rate. Okay. So another one is exit section 2 m dot 2. Okay, rho A2 into V2. Okay. So consideration of momentum and continuity equation. I hope everyone knows that continuity equation. So based on that, the same concept will be applicable for our initial of momentum theory. Right. So rate of change of momentum will be the thrust. So I hope you know that what is the rate of change of momentum, right? So the force will be given with respect to mass flow rate into velocity. Okay. So why we have chosen the velocity of V2 and mass flow rate of 1? Because the flow is getting induced in the rotor. So it is the rotor, because of the rotor only the flow is getting what we can say is pushing that air from the upper surface to the lower surface. Okay. So what will happen? So that's why we have taken that mass flow rate of M1 section, that is induced rotor section, and V2. So V2 indicates that, see, every second a packet of fluid enters the steam tube with zero velocity. In the steam tube, when the flow is entering, it will be entering with the velocity of 0. In the same second, an equal packet of fluid leaves the steam tube with the vertical velocity of V2. So it will be exiting with the vertical velocity of V2. This is we are considering. So this is the starting of steam tube. So every flow, when it is starting from the steam tube, we are considering it as before the steam tube, it is 0. So it is getting accelerated due to the disk rotation. So the flow is induced and at the rotor blade, so we have marked as V1, and at the exit we are marking it as V2. Okay, so that's why we are considering the V2 during the thrust calculation. Okay, mass flow rate of due to the rotor and V2 due to the exit velocity. Okay, so let's go into the next slide. Right. So the next the thrust is given with respect to area into pressure, right? So I am using the term called delta P. So what is delta P? Delta P is difference between the pressure. Okay, so difference between the rotor pressure, upper layer of the rotor pressure and bottom layer of rotor pressure. That's why they have used U and L. So L minus U. Okay, so what is the pressure? So pressure is given with respect to force by area, force upon area, right? So here our force is thrust. So instead of P, I am using the difference delta P. So delta P is equal to thrust by area. Okay. So thrust by area. So delta P is equal to thrust by area. So area will be there. So thrust is equal to delta P into A. Okay. So the difference between the pressure is taken. So PL minus PU, right? So that's why this equation is stating the thrust is equal to area into pressure difference. Okay, delta P. So if you see from above the rotor and below the rotor, so using Bernoulli's concept, right? So the pressure, initial pressure is P infinity, right? So that's why it is marked as P infinity plus half rho V square will be there. So plus half rho V square will be there. So here our V is equal to 0. So that's why that half rho in this left hand side, we are neglecting that half rho V square. Okay, since our velocity we are considering this 0. Okay, so this is our first section. So this is our first section considering with respect to above the rotor surface also. Okay, so that's why we are marking it as U infinity, P infinity and Pu plus half rho Vi square induced flow. So in the lower of the rotor, PL, right, pressure plus half rho Vi square, yes, that is there, equal to P infinity plus half rho V2 square. That is our exit area. Okay. So when we are equating both the equations, right? Just substituting the P infinity in this equation, right? So we will be calculating PL. That is, if you substitute the entire equation here, half rho V square will be getting cancelled. So PL minus PU is equal to half rho V2 square. Okay, so I hope you understood that, right? So just we are applying that P infinity in this equation. Okay, so just comparing this, let's take this as second equation. Let's take this as second equation, and previously we can take this as first equation. This is let's take this second equation. So we can compare the thrust. So we can equate also. So thrust of rho A, V, I, and 2. So thrust is equal to rho A, V, I into V2. So if we are equating this equation and we are substituting the PL minus PU, right, which we got in the last derivation, right, half rho V square, right? So when we are substituting all those equations, so I hope you are noting it down. Since we are having last 2 minutes, I am just winding up with that thrust equation itself. So I'm just winding up with this equation for today's session. Okay. So when we are equating the above equations, from the above equations, we can find that V2, that is the velocity of exit, will be 2 times the velocity of VI. So depending upon this induced flow, the upper thrust will be produced. Okay. So when we substitute that V2 value in our first equation, then we can identify the thrust value also. Okay, so simply we can say thrust from this equation we can make thrust is equal to square root of thrust is equal to square root of 2 rho A V I. Okay, so when we are squaring, thrust is equal to 2 rho A V I square. So this is our final equation to calculate the thrust using momentum equation. So momentum equation is nothing but it is to approximate value. It is to identify the approximate value of thrust force which is happening during the hovering condition. Okay, so I hope you understood the lecture. So if you have any queries, you can ask now. I'm switching you the audio option for you guys, so you can ask doubts. Purushottam, no, this PDF is not available. I will be sharing with you with you guys so that you can watch, you can read in the book itself in much deeper. So I will be sharing this entire slides, that is PPT, with you guys in a unit wise or in a chapter wise, so that it will be convenient for you. So if I am delivering with a lecture wise, then you will be forget the beginning and end of the chapter or unit. So that's why I will compile everything and I will give you guys. And Nitika, she asked what type of airfoil section we generally use in helicopter for rotor blades. So 0012 is basic thing, right? So those symmetrical and unsymmetrical airfoils may be used depending upon, as I told, we are required for blade twist, right? So depending upon the blade twist, we will be using both symmetrical and unsymmetrical. So more about this airfoil, we will be discussing about in aerodynamic design of helicopter rotor blades. So during that time, we will discuss much more deeper about the airfoil section. And Jujar has asked, will there be any change in RPM of the tail rotor while changing the heading of the helicopter? Yes, there will be changes will be there. So due to that force, in order to generate that force, changes need to be done with the tail rotor RPM also. Sir, can you please tell us about the modern controls? See, modern controls, right? When we are speaking about modern controls, autopilot system has to be implemented in helicopters also. So the modern control system will basically with respect to electronic coupling. So electronic coupling is nothing but if you are considering the flow, right? Pitch changes between the rotor, main rotor and tail rotor. So we can access accordingly. Okay, so electronic coupling will be done, and we can control the movements of helicopter. So that is one of the modern controls. So if you are having any queries, you can ask now. Or those who are not having queries, you can leave. As time, I am also having this lecture. Which book we should follow for this subject? Yes, I have told previously also. Na? Sudden, John Sudden. Today I will share in your WhatsApp group, right? So I will share that book in your WhatsApp group so that you can check it. Any other questions? So I am having next section. So I have to leave the session right now. So with this I am ending. Take care, and we will meet soon in the next lecture.